We are now live on YouTube and Facebook. Chairman, you have the floor.
Good. The meeting is called to order. Please provide a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But before we do that, please join me in welcoming Ray Gitteroff, who has accepted the role of Acting Executive Director of the PBC. Ray.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. I was just telling Commissioner Whitley, when I started, my sons were 3 and 5 years old, and now they're 27 and 29.
Oh, wow.
So thank you.
Well, that's very encouraging today.
I've gotten better looking over the years. Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll take roll. Chairman Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Prattwinkle.
Here.
Commissioner Randall.
Here.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Here.
Commissioner Whitley.
Here.
Commissioner Ellis.
Here.
Commissioner Chi. Here. Panel, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We
Facts, I would have an excused absence. His son had a heart attack and he is in the hospital.
Thank you. We'll be praying for Commissioner Saxon and his son. Is there anything in the rules that requires us to provide permission for remote participation?
Yes, it's on your agenda.
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
So moved.
Got you. So thank you. We have a quorum. Commissioner Randall has requested to attend today's meeting via remotely for reasons stated on the Open Meetings Act. It's been moved. Is there a second for remote participation?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor for remote participation for Commissioner Randall signify by saying aye. Any nays? The motion is approved. Thank you. This is
Just for the record. This is not for his convenience, but he's quarantined.
Yes, that's correct, Madam President. So thank you for allowing me to participate remotely. I would be there otherwise.
You're certainly welcome. Okay, this is the portion for public participation. Pursuant to section 06 of the Open Meetings Act, public comment period will be held. Registered speakers will be allowed 2 minutes to provide comments. Please proceed with the public comment period.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mary Pat, thank you for joining us today to share your comments with the PBC Board. In compliance with the Open Meetings Act, public participation provides an opportunity for residents to share their comments with our Board of Commissioners. As a reminder, public participants must register 2 hours in advance of the meeting and are allowed 2 minutes to provide comments. As stated in the PBC's resolution adopted by the Board, all public comments must be limited to the issues of concern before the Board and its committees. Remarks of a personal nature directed toward the Board, a member of the Board, employees of the Commission, or any other individual will not be permitted. Although we welcome public participation and public comment at our meetings, conduct or behavior that is not respectful or in violation of our anti-harassment policy will not be tolerated. Mary Pat.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Mr. George Blakemore.
Yeah. Open Meeting Act. When you put the Open Meetings Act, doesn't make any rules of comment. I don't like know that. I do like no law that requires me to not to like somebody. And if I want to hate somebody, there's no law that keeps me from hating anybody. Let me get to the point. Black faces in high places are not representing Black people. And they have talking me as public enemy number 1. Mr. George Blakemore. Now we have an agenda and it's getting chance to renew who's going to manage this building. I'm expected to see all of those companies that been bidding you let them upset you, Mr. Blakemore, so loud. Anyway, that's the last thing I'm saying. I'm gonna make this statement. On public radio, they said Chicago was the most corrupt city in the United States. They also said the 3rd most corrupt state was the state of Illinois. Now somebody should be hating that. Somebody here should be hating that. Get your act together. You're the laughing stock of the nation. And the audacity to say don't insult anybody. You have already insulted the citizens of this great city. By the way you act, your fraud, your waste, your meanness, your hateful, the most corrupt city in America.
Thank you, Mr. Blake.
All right, I hope you two have got this line. Thank you.
Next
Get
speaker,
America.
next speaker, Mr. Kenneth Newman.
I didn't say it. They say it with the survey.
Good afternoon, Mayor Johnson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, KPC commissioners and staff. I have been doing more research on what was needed for our young people in our public schools to have the athletic facilities they so badly deserve. Having had experience with this all over the city, I really urge the PBC to become the advocate for new athletic facilities, because I think what has happened so far between the Park District and CPS has not been enough. And so, having been all around the city, I ask you, and we don't have the Park District president here today, Ms. Hamilton, who I know. I'm asking you to go and get into the high schools that are in parks or next to parks, including Kennedy at Wentworth Park, Dyack at Washington Park, Washington High School in Roman Park. Sullivan High School is near 6 blocks or so away from Warren Park. Mather High School is next to Mather Park. And there are several others. DuSable has to have its athletic facility renovated. The Urban Prep School, the rented CPS facility in Englewood, that track has holes in it, has to be renovated. And there are a few other places I've observed where our students are not getting the best possible opportunity. What's worse, when CPS grads and education majors in college, if they want to come back to the city, when they can go to a suburban school that's got much better athletic facilities, or downstate or out of state, we need at least 15 more 400-meter tracks and artificial turf fields for CPS. And my experience and background would make it myself an asset to this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes our public comments for today.
Thank you very much for consideration of approval. Thank you to all of our public comments. Consideration of approval of minutes of the annual meeting held October 10, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those.
Aye.
Very good. All those opposed say nay. This motion is approved. For the report on the audit committee regarding the meeting held November 1st, audit committee chairman, Chairman Todd Whitley.
Thank you, sir. The audit committee held a meeting on November 1, 2023. Our report is as follows. The executive director provided an introduction for the proposed 2024 PBC administrative budget. This is the A4.
The document isn't there though,
It's in mine.
not in mine.
So I continue.
Please continue. Could we actually get a copy of that document,
Sorry, I watched that.
please?
What's that?
A4.
That's it. That's the audit committee report.
They don't have it.
Budget.
Oh, the budget's later on in the agenda.
Oh, okay.
I see.
Well, my fault, sir. That's all right, thank you.
You interrupted my sermon.
Well, it says here that the finance director gave a detailed analysis of the BBC budget. So I thought it was-
That's my fault.
Oh, okay. Pastor, it's close.
So the executive director provided an introduction for the proposed 2024 PBC administrative budget. The director of finance then gave a detailed analysis of the PBC budget. The budget will be reported on the agenda during item A7. The audit committee accepted the report, and that concludes my report.
Very good. Then preparing for A7 any moment now, but is there a motion to accept this report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Nay. And this report has been accepted. Report on the Administrative Operations Committee regarding the meeting held November 8th. Chair recognizes Chairman Maldonado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee held a meeting on November 8th, 2023. Our report is as follows. The Director of Procurement reported on one task order award for specialty consultant services to a previously appointed firm. The report is in under 85A. He also reported on amendments to professional services agreements under tabs A5B. The Director of Procurement reported on the pre-qualification of 50 specialty consultant providers for 6 categories, which will be reported during item A6 on the agenda. 50% of the firms are either minority, women, or minority and women-owned business enterprise firms. The Director of Procurement also reported on a recommendation to appoint a firm to provide property management services for the Richard J. Daley Center. That item will be reported on the agenda during item B1. The Chief Development Officer reported on field orders issued. The committee accepted the recommendations and reports from the PBC representatives, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chairman. Is there a motion to accept this report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. This report is accepted. For consideration of approval of the pre-qualification of firms to provide the following specialty consultant services. For environmental engineering services, environmental renovation, demolition, the geotechnical services, surveyor services, traffic study services, construction material testing, and inspection services. The chair recognizes acting Executive Director Gitterall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PBC designated several professional services that are often required in connection with the successful delivery of each one of our projects. To ensure the availability of a consistent pool of capable service providers, PBC pre-qualifies firms to provide these necessary services. In May of this year, PBC issued a request for qualifications for specialty consulting services referenced by our chairman: environmental engineering, environmental renovation, demolition, geotechnical, surveyor, traffic study, and construction material testing inspections. After a review of the submissions, including evaluation of the technical competence, key staff and personnel, proposed minority and women business enterprise participation, as well as experience and other factors, the evaluation committee recommended the appointment of 50 specialty consultants across the 6 categories mentioned previously. Of the firms being recommended, over half, 52%, are minority, and women business enterprise firms. I'll read through those recommendations for each category. Under the first category, environmental engineering services, 11 total firms, of which 5 are new to our program. A3 Environmental LLC, AECOM Technical Services Inc., Cardinal Conover and Associates Limited, ECS Midwest LLC, Environmental Design International Inc., GSG Consultants Inc., Specialty Consulting Inc., Terracon Consultants Inc., V3 Companies Limited, Weaver Consultants Group North Central LLC, and WSP USA Environment and Infrastructure Inc. Next category, environmental renovation demolition services, 10 firms, 3 of which are new to the agency. Accurate SPT, a joint venture. Arcadis US Inc., ATC Group Services LLC, doing business as Atlas Technical, Cardinal Conover and Associates Limited, Environmental Design International Inc., GSG Consultants Inc., Specialty Consulting Inc., TEM Environmental Inc., Terracon Consultants Inc., and WSP USA Environment and Infrastructure Inc. Next category, geotechnical services, total 6 firms, 1 new to the agency. AECOM Technical Services Inc., ECS Midwest LLC, GeoServices Inc., GSG Consultants Inc., CFO Consultants Inc., and Terracon Consultants Inc. Next category, surveyor services, 9 total firms, of which 3 are new to the agency. American Surveying and Engineering Limited, Dynasty Group Inc., Environmental Design International Inc., Gasparic Alberts Consulting LLC, GSG Consultants Inc., Terra Engineering Limited, Thomas Engineering Group LLC, V3 Companies Limited, Weaver Consultants Group North Central LLC. Next category, traffic study services, 8 total firms, 4 of which are new to the agency. Dama Consultants Inc., DLZ Illinois Inc., Primera Engineering Limited, Vinos Masaya Engineers Inc., Singh and Associates Inc., Terra Engineering Limited, Thomas Engineering Group LLC, and V3 Companies Limited. The last category, construction material testing and inspection services, 6 total firms, of which 2 are new to the agency. ATC Group Services LLC, doing business as Atlas Technical Consultants LLC, TCS Midwest LLC, National Soil Testing LLC, Princeton Technical Services Inc., Seco Consultants Inc., and Intera Inc. Upon approval, PBC will enter into new master term agreements with each firm against which task orders will be issued for each project. Firms will be required to provide task order specific M&WBE plans and updated insurance certificates for each project. We will continue to provide regular reports to the board as the task orders are written. The term for each agreement is for 3 years with up to 2 one-year extension options. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you for the report and thank you for the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve this the recommendation?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Does anyone wish to comment on these? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed, say nay. This motion is approved. All right, A7, this is for consideration of approval of the Public Building Commission's 2024 administrative budget. The recommendation will be offered by our acting executive director, Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to provide an update on our 2024 administrative budget as reviewed during our administrative operations and audit committees. CBC is committed to continued fiscal responsibility, where we can report that we successfully maintained a flat budget over the past 3 years. Under tab A7 in your book on page 4, do you want to turn to that?
Can we go through the first 2 pages first?
Sure.
Okay, so I have a bunch of questions. Sure. Okay, so what we saw in 2020 was a precipitous decrease in work in place, right? Now that's the pandemic, so that's not a surprise. But what we've seen since then is, can't see this very well. It's my cataract. Anyway, a gradual decline,
Yep,
right,
yep.
in work in progress. So that in what's projected in 2025 is half of what was 2020. Okay, so that's the first contributing thing for me. Second thing is that we're proposing an unbalanced budget here, is that right?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So I'm in a lot of trouble if I propose an unbalanced budget. Page 2. I'm in a lot of trouble if I propose an unbalanced budget. How are we gonna make a difference here?
That's a good point, Commissioner. I think a few things. Number one, we're going to continue to work at that. In addition to that, we have a current workload. We'll continue to look at making that work as well to reduce that gap that you referenced. And then try to continue to work with all of our partners to identify additional opportunities in order to make up that difference. And, working backwards, can't make up that gap, but moving forward in order to reduce some of the costs, and be more efficient with the work we have, be more efficient with the work that we're planning to perform, and continue to work with our partners in this one to identify those opportunities will help reduce that gap. It's also important to note that these are projections. There is an amount of contingency that's there as well. It's currently listed in your book. The variance that you see there is approximately $1.6 million.
The variance in our 2024 budget between revenues and expenses is 1.6 million.
Approximately.
That's a large, well, except for 2022, and we had a larger one, I guess. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. It's the point you're making. So the projection is exactly that. Within that projection is included contingencies that we carry. So as those forecasts become actuals, we anticipate that be less than the $1.6 million, approximately $1 million, depending on the efficiencies that we implement. We continue to implement. We're running on an efficient staff as it is, without providing overlapping sort of management staff and so on and so forth to reduce those variances.
Do we have-
If I may.
Yeah, sorry, Tanya, our Director of Finance, is here. She can answer
Yeah,
additional.
good afternoon, Commissioner.
Good
Good afternoon.
In an effort to answer what we've been presenting, an unbalanced budget for the last 2 years. But in fact, as we get into our actuals over with the exception of 2022, for 2023, we're projected to actually come in not over budget. So we're projected to come in with either flat, where we're break even, or with a small amount of a surplus. We planned ahead when we knew we were going to lose our bond revenue over at the end of 2019. So we have been we were operating in a surplus as we were looking ahead that we would be at a level where our resources would not sustain our expenses. So we also became flatter as needed. We went into the pandemic, and as we have saw the decrease in our WIP has afforded us to have to utilize what we had in the surplus. As we have exhausted that in 2022, where you see on page 2 that there was a huge difference, we're now at 2023 where we're resetting and looking at, we have a rather later in life stage of the projects that we're in as we're closing out a number of our projects with some of our agencies. That's bringing in a lot more of our resources to close those out, but we are maintaining those as best we can to match the amount of resources that we actually come in. When we come to the budget, we have to budget based off of what our requirements are in different areas, like Frank was saying, with our contingencies and things like that. But we always, as we go throughout the year, and when we hit Q1, we will definitely be reassessing and taking a look at what we were at in 2023 and where we're going forward with 2024.
It just, if you look here, just roughly for me, the deficit projected this year is twice what it was last year.
Well, no, that's actually, that's a projection. Last year, when we came to the actual budget amount, it was 1.5 million. And so now, when I have adjusted the actual schedule there, that's looking at the projection for where we feel we will end this year at from an expense perspective and a resource perspective. So we have closed the gap drastically from last year's budget presentation. So right at the bottom, it says 2020 projected. So this is not based off of the actual budget. The actual budget that we had for our numbers from 2023 was 8.2 million, and our actuals are looking to be at about 6.5 million. Similarly, in 2022, we had a budget of 8.4.
What year were you referencing now?
It's on page 4. It's on page 4.
So you're referencing 2022 now?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please continue.
I was referencing on page 4, where it shows the budget that was approved was 8.4. That the sheet doesn't show what the actuals were, but our actuals were 6.8, and that's what's represented on page 2 schedule, where we're going from actuals to projected into what we're proposing for this year.
So 2022, the budget was projected to be roughly 8.5,
Correct.
and it was 6.8.
Correct.
And so are you also, I'm sorry, Chairwoman, did you have more questions?
No, I mean, what are we projecting for this year at the end of year?
We're projecting 6.5.
6.5. Okay, so basically, the 1.6 million that we would project, 1.6 million that we're projecting for next year as a deficit, you think you can smooth out because that's what you've done the last 2 years?
That is exactly what we believe. We're staying on steadfast target to collect the administrative fees that we have open out on projects that we feel will come to closure at the correct point in time. That we will be able to get our resources. We're also looking at new projects that will be undertaken in 2024 that will continue to increase our resources, which should help us to again come in line with what our expenses that we would project for the year.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Whitley, did you have questions?
No, I just think that when you look at this chart versus looking at the 2024 general administrative budget, it can, bring some bit of confusion. Would you
seem to explain. Thank you. Please continue.
All right, thank you, Chairman. As we were saying, under tab 8.7, on page 4, the total proposed 2024 administrative budget is $8,399,462 with expenses showing an overall increase of approximately 1% from the 2023 budget. As we stated, through constant and rigorous cost management, efficient project execution, and innovative solutions, we've managed not only to sustain our operations, but also continue to deliver essential public infrastructure projects throughout the city. As a reminder, we're not a taxing body, and our main source of revenue is generated through a 3% project administrative fee from construction budget of our work in place. For the administrative fee, our clients receive the full services of the PBC to successfully navigate the complexities of all of our projects from initiation through completion. Our current projected resources are approximately $6,794,283. Based on this budget, the PBC projects the 2024 administrative expenses to slightly exceed our projected resources by the amounts that we were just talking about, Commissioner. We will require additional work as we move into the 2024 year to increase our resources. We'll continue to work with our partners, establish the value that we can provide to our clients to identify those opportunities that may be out there. In the coming months, the team will continue to work diligently to continue streamlining our processes, enhancing our communication channels, and fostering a culture of excellence. We'll continue to work with all of our partners to ensure that we do that for everyone.
Chair Johnson, can I ask a question again?
Sure. Chair recognizes Commissioner Preckwinkle.
Thank you. Let me come back to my original point, which is this downward trend, which, as I said, I find it challenging since in a 5-year period, the work underway is dramatically decreased. Are you going to present us with a plan for how we're going to move forward in 2024 so that this precipitous decline doesn't continue?
That is our plan, Commissioner. We'll continue to work as a team. We'll report at our next board meeting with regard to how we're going to plan on doing that. We have identified additional partners to identify that additional work in order to mitigate that gap. So that is our plan. That is something that we've been working on for quite some time over the last several years, not just this year. So it is important that we come back and report that to our chairman and our board.
I think to the Commissioner Preckwinkle's point, would be helpful to have an analysis of the type of projects that we do that yield the reflection or the numbers that we had 5 years ago. Because I don't want to overly how do I say this? We can draw a reasonable conclusion that the pandemic year, that there are some results that have impacted that decline, even as dramatic as it is. But it would be helpful to understand what type of projects did we lose or have not done that we historically have been able to do that reflects the 251 that exist in 2020, right? So the plan be helpful to include just an analysis of what type of operations so that the body as a whole could think critically about those partnerships, right? I don't want to assume, but if the vast majority of these projects are contingent upon, public buildings owned by Chicago Public Schools, and that I'm making up a number, 20% of our share historically has come from CPS buildings, but we saw a decline there. Where is the decline so that we can better understand and assess what partnerships we should be moving for, because we're all reflecting the type of operations and projects that we have done historically. And then now we would charge Commissioner Shih in his other capacity to start thinking critically alongside of you. Does that make sense?
That's a great point. And to your point, in those years where we had work, it was based on program level work rather than project level work. And thanks to CPS and our partners at CPS, we did receive large programs. The 2017 program, the 2019 program, our SIP program, all of those programs allowed us to work efficiently. We do really well under those programmatic type deliveries as opposed to project level deliveries. And we're working with our commissioners right now on some of the projects where we want to make sure we're providing value, right? Not every project may not make sense to the commission, but program level projects absolutely would make sense. And we can identify those efficiencies. So that's a great point, and we can do that.
Just a clarification between project versus program.
Sure.
Are you able to, what's the difference between a program related agreement and a project related agreement?
Sure, that's a good question. In 2017, we undertook a number of different schools as part of a program. In 2019, with our partners at CPS, we undertook several projects, renovation program and a new work program. And we're able to work with our client in the worst of times, in the middle of a pandemic, work together to make sure that we deliver to schools on time, make sure that we kept everybody safe, identify all the challenges across the country and internationally to address some of those supply chain impacts that we were experiencing. So at a program level, it's more than one project, right? An annex program, a renovation program. We're working with our partners at CDOT, and they've been great to work with on their WPA program, on their alley restoration program. So those are the types of things that I think help us excel and provide that value. Some of our clients perform their own facilities related work. We may not be good at that, meaning from a cost efficiency perspective, but from an execution perspective, absolutely. It's the program level where our percentages start to reveal that we're actually as competitive, if not more competitive on a national level with that in regard to that.
Very helpful. Well, your first day is getting off to a great start. Chair recognizes Commissioner Preckwinkle.
So I'm a history teacher.
Yes, I do know that.
Chair, like the chair. So it'd be helpful to me to have one section on the history. You know, how we saw this precipitous drop. What's the story there, right? You know, and the sort of then the present situation. What's the nature of our work and plan?
Yeah, sure.
How does it differ from, you know, when we were at 251 million? Is there some, as the chair points out, some segment of our work that just sort of disappeared on us, or, you know, what happened? And then what's your plan going forward? So what's the history, what's the present situation, and what's your plan going forward?
Perfect, we'll do that.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Commissioner Ellis.
You talked about being here for 25 years. Over the 25 years, this has happened like around 2010 to 2015. There was a low, right? It's like we build in a 10-year bust period where we build everything and then it tails off and it get real drastic. Am I correct? Over the 25 years you've been here?
Yes, that is correct.
That's the history, right?
Yeah, over the years, and that's a great point. I think that would be. Yeah, that would be great information to have, because without that history, we won't be able to avoid that from happening again and make plans and contingencies for the future, so that, you know, these difficult conversations I think are fine, but that history will be important.
Very good. Commissioner Shue.
I just want to echo Commissioner Preckwinkle and Chairman Johnson around this analysis of what needs to be done over the years about number of projects. I would, you know, knowing that Chicago Public Schools makes up a majority of these projects, I would like to go one layer deeper in analysis. How do we improve? What is in this body's control? What is in PBC's control to improve the quality? Kind of go deeper about the reasons why these services have changed. And I think that will lead, you know, to more business overall.
That's a great point, Commissioner. Some of it is finance, some of it is capital and availability, right? Some of it is courage. And in the latter part of that, I think, is just focusing on some of the challenges and implementing solutions to avoid some of the challenges so we can continue to deliver quality product within the time constraints identified by the client. And we'll constantly look at our challenges more than the successes, because I think that's where we learn, because the successful projects are easy to talk about, right? It's the difficult ones that are a challenge that sometimes aren't easy to talk about. But we're not afraid to do that. We'll continue to do that with your staff, of course. And there are areas of improvement where we're concerned. And I'm confident that we will implement all of those strategies to improve some of those areas that we've had challenges and demonstrate that there is a value, and it's all about the absolute value, not a perceived value of how we deliver work, right? What is the absolute value? It's the talent that's in the room from the PBC that can deliver, that can procure, they can monitor compliance, they can ensure that we're cooperating and we're working closely with our local unions and our community residents and our chairman. All those things are important to us. Just those are indirect issues that I think is the absolute value that I'm talking about. And all of your input is important, especially with regard to the history and where we are now and where we're heading next, to your point. So we will do that.
We have a question from Commissioner Randall.
I want to make sure that Commissioner Shea, did you have
I
any other thoughts?
appreciate that. I just want to close by saying I look forward to using my role to convene those kind of difficult conversations that we can move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chair, it's okay. So I have Commissioner Randall and then Commissioner Whitley. Chair recognizes Commissioner Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I've been on the board almost 13 years now, along with President Preckwinkle. So some of the history is exactly what's being described there. I think it's, obviously the PBC is heavily dependent upon the capital programs and how healthy they are of a lot of different agencies. Certainly CPS, but not only CPS. We've done a lot of work for other agencies as well. Libraries, the Park District, many others as well. A lot of fire stations, a lot of those type of things. The other part of it, though, I think, is that this organization has to really make the case that they're going to provide the best service for the best, most efficient use of those dollars for folks. And so sometimes those agencies may feel like they can do it better themselves, and sometimes they feel the PBC can do it better. We made a decision at the Forest Preserves to spin off some of our work, mostly because we didn't have the capacity to do it, because we have additional resources as we ramp up, and we wanted to get some things out the door more quickly. But I do think that's part of the equation, is what's available, and just as importantly, is there confidence in the PBC that they can do it, on budget, on time, most efficiently, or more than their own in-house staffs can do it. And I think the PBC, is very competitive that way and can make that case. But that's all part of the equation. But I do think there's sort of this boom or bust cycle as well when then you may or may not have the money to do the capital program, so you're not going to PBC because there's nothing, you don't have the money to spend.
Thank you, Commissioner Randall. Yep. Commissioner Whitley.
Just in your projection is important, like the next board meeting, I think it's important also to include a statement or some type of statement concerning minority participation.
Sure.
We project in the future, we need to ensure that commitment is strong and continues to grow.
Thank you.
Are there any other commissioners that wish to speak to this recommendation? Please, you want to finish the recommendation?
I think you had
a chair recognizes Commissioner Ellis.
Again, we're talking about the PBC and other agencies doing their own work. There was a time almost that no agency did their other work. It all came through the PBC, right? I mean, it was like, 3, maybe 5% at best other agencies did. And then around 2010, 12, agencies started to take more of their work. It was by design. It was to get away from the restraints that the PBC had with minorities and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's my understanding of it.
Well, thank you for that. It's clear that there is still yet an opportunity to have some understanding of our history, what's happening presently, and then what is our plan and our efforts moving forward, which has to include a real commitment to Commissioner Whitley's commitment to minority enterprises.
Absolutely, and to that end, it is an investment that we're making in our M&WBE partners. It's a big part of what we do on your behalf, to continue to invest in those partners, because otherwise they may not have opportunities. And at this agency, under your leadership, they are getting opportunities as primes. They're at the table sharing the meal with the rest of us, rather than waiting outside. And that's a big part of your leadership, and that's what we will continue to emphasize as we move forward.
Thank you. Anything else in your report that you wish to present before we ask for a motion?
I think that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Is there a motion to approve the budget recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and second to approve the budget recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Any opposed, say nay. This motion is approved. Consideration approval to appoint a firm to provide property management services for the Richard J. Daley Center. Chair recognizes Acting Director Yeroff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PBT issued a request for proposals on August first of this year for property management services for the Richard J. Daley Center. A pre-submission conference and site visit was held at the building on August 31st. Submissions were received by two firms, one from Transwestern Commercial Services, Illinois LLC, and Jones Lang LaSalle Americas, Inc. on September 21st of this year. Both proposals were evaluated on 8 key factors, and both firms were asked to prepare a presentation and participate in interviews with the evaluation team to detail their proposal, transition plans, cost proposals, along with their capacity and innovative added values that they bring to the table. Following the interviews, both respondents were tasked with providing additional information based on questions asked during those interviews. Both respondents also provided updated cost proposals based on clarifying requests made by the PBC. After close consideration, the evaluation committee recommends the appointment of Transwestern Commercial Services, Illinois LLC to provide property management services at the Daley Center. The recommendation is based on their overall team capacity, excellent operations plan, and commitment to exceed 70% M&W BE business enterprise participation. Their cost proposal was highly competitive. Mr. Chairman, representatives from Transwestern are here today to affirm their commitment to continue to work with the agency and our Board of Commissioners to ensure that we'll continue to get the great services that we've been getting from you. So the professional services agreement for property management Transwestern will run for an initial 3 years, a 3-year term with 2 one-year renewal options. The total yearly management fee for the term of the agreement is remained unchanged in the amount of $168,533. You want to introduce yourselves?
Leave from the body granted for members or representatives from, what's the name of it? Transwestern, leave is granted. Any one of you wish to just to address the body and state your name, please?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So I'm Andre Wiggins. I'm the former manager of the building. I'm involved with the property for the past 15 years. I'm now overseeing all of our government assets of the 69 Washington with the property that we manage as well. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity. This is a building that's very near to my heart. Working with Ray and his team for the past 15 years, we take pride in what we do here. We understand our fiscal responsibility. We understand our commitment to minority participation as well. Ray noted that we plan to exceed 70% over the next contract term. That's something that we definitely want to hit. Just yesterday, we held our, last week, we held our annual open house of minority vendors. So we invite vendors that county partners with, the PBC partners with, and also the city of Chicago to come out to the building. We have all of the other assets that we manage as well present at this open house too. So not only are we focused on minority vendors for government assets, we're also introducing them to the private sector as well. So we appreciate the opportunity. We've been here for a while. We want to continue this relationship. Transwestern has done a great job of maintaining the current staff. So even though MB Real Estate was acquired in January of this year, they made a commitment to keep me in place, John Beatty, the current general manager, in place, and the existing staff throughout the building. So those relationships are maintained. That commitment to the building has been maintained, and we hope to maintain that relationship moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiggins. The chair recognizes Commissioner Preckwinkle.
so NB Realty was the manager of this building. And the company was purchased by Transwestern.
Right.
But NB Realty staff was retained. Is that the deal?
Yes, so we were acquired in, MB Real Estate was acquired by Transwestern in January. The pre-existing team, myself, I was already in this position that I am in right now, was promoted to this position in January of 2022. Prior to that, I was the general manager of the Daley Center. John was the assistant general manager. So I made my transition, he made his transition to general manager, and Transwestern made that commitment to keep the team in place because we know that's what was important to the building, to keep that history and an understanding of what's important to the building in place, and they were successful in doing that.
The county is your principal tenants.
They are.
I have an interest in this.
Yeah, and so we're working with our team over at 69 West Washington as well. We understand the importance of trying to develop a campus type of feel between these two buildings. So we recently brought in a 100% minority company for cleaning. That's the first time in 69 West Washington. We're gonna have a new minority trash removal service. So we're bidding between both buildings. We're also going to increase the level of security minority participation, which is being subcontracted between both buildings because we have the same contractors as well. So we're moving toward increasing overall minority participation and creating a campus feel between the both buildings. So they're using the both contractors, and those terms will be coterminous moving forward. So we can bid these buildings at the same time moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. Wiggins. And if I could just take a little bit of privilege as chair, it could be helpful for any documentation or photos that you all have taken at the open house, as well as having some analysis of the workforce and what neighborhoods they reside in. If you could, thank you all for your work and your commitment. If you have that, please speak.
Yeah, we do have that information. Our marketing team just sent those photos out this afternoon. So
What photos? I'm sorry.
Of the open house.
Photos of the open house.
Oh.
So that event was held last week. So we do have photos of that. We have the information as far as those companies that participated.
Yes.
We have information on those buildings that participated as well. So we were represented by 20 of the buildings that we manage throughout Chicago, which 500 West Madison is a privately owned building that we manage. They were represented. 181 West Madison was represented as well. So we're proud to now bring in some of our privately owned assets and partners to get those minority vendors exposure to them as well, because they shouldn't just be limited to the government assets. So we'll send it over with information.
That would be helpful. What a breakdown as soon as you can with the workforce that's also attached to the contractors. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
yeah, we just did that 2 months ago. So we'll
Perfect.
send that over to Ray as well.
Yeah. Commissioner Whitley has a special place in his heart for West Siders. So
I do too. I'm a graduate of Westinghouse High School.
okay, wow. Very good. I taught at Westinghouse, so very good. All right. Thank you. Yes, please say your name.
So, my name is Bruce Ford. I serve as president of Transwestern, and I'm here today to just attest to the strength of the relationship that we enjoy with PPC and with the city, and that commitment is going to continue. As Andre mentioned, one of the things that we were excited about, the partnership that we formed with MBRE, was to be able to expand our minority business partner program across the portfolio of assets that Transwestern manages in and around the city of Chicago. So thank you for allowing us to be here today, and we're honored, and we look forward to continuing to work.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. I mean, at this point, you gotta at least say hi. At least say your name.
John Beatty, the general manager, and just to reiterate what they said, I just want to thank you all for letting us be here.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve this recommendation? It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say no, nay. This motion is approved. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning this meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.